Hello, all. Thank you for joining the Human Libraries of Procurement podcast. We call it the Human Libraries of Procurement for three main reasons: the human connect, the libraries part, which shows knowledge and wisdom, and procurement because we talk about procurement. One such human libraries of is Chandresh Natu. Chandresh, thank you for doing this. How are you doing today?
Hi, Supadan. Thank you so much for inviting me. All is well. Thank you.
So, Chandresh, we'll start with your career journey. If you can please introduce
So I'm
yourself.
Chandresh Natu, based out of Gurgaon, India. And now I have close to about 27 years of work experience. And in my entire career has, there are two areas where I've mostly operated at. One is procurement, second is real estate, and then multiple projects across these two domains over the period of these 27 years. I'm a civil engineer, and then I've done my post-graduation in construction management. I'm also an alum from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. I have done my senior executive MBA from there. I'm a certified Lean Six Sigma practitioner. So been involved in undertaking a lot of process improvement work within both procurement and in real estate. And that's my journey, lifelong student, keep learning, trying to do new things and drive value. Thank you.
Right. So, a lot of good experience there, Chandresh. Thank you for sharing that. Well done. The words that I picked up are real estate, construction, being a lifelong student. So that's very nice. Now, I have two disclaimers to say, two things. First disclaimer is that we are here on our own capacities. We are not representing any company here. And the second one is, if anyone has any question, please put them on the chat box and I'll read it out and Chandresh would be happy to read. Thank you again. And we'll start with the categories that you have supported for procurement.
So my core has been all non-IT, that's my core area. And to complement that, I've always had someone from IT background in my team. That's purely non-IT across all the categories from services, HR, real estate, everything, events, marketing, travel. So done all of that. I've done a lot of services IT contracts. I think it's more to do with how exciting the project is, irrespective of what category. If project is something which is really driving more value and impact for the organization, that clearly is on the top. And then you start working on, how do you really achieve the end objective which you're defining to work on that particular project. So yes, so it all depends, but being in procurement, that's the beauty, right? You get to touch and work on different kind of projects, different kind of requirements, and there is never a dull day. There is always something which is happening, and it's pretty exciting.
Right. Yes, procurement does give you a lot of learning, right? Every day is a new learning day in that way. But we'll start with the corporate real estate. Tell us your experience on the corporate real estate as a category.
Yeah, corporate real estate is a pretty exciting space, and if you really look at any P&L, after your people cost, the number one cost would be the real estate cost. So that's a pretty high ticket item up there, which then, given the scope, brings in the procurement professionals to come and really, drive more value on that particular spend. And that's why it's very exciting, because, as organizations grow, their need and requirement on the real estate space also changes. And again, even with time, Post-COVID, a lot of things have changed within the real estate space. So it's a pretty exciting space. And while from outside it looks like, oh, it's just an office space, but if you really start understanding what really happens in that particular domain, there are multiple activities which really go on to decide how the projects will be executed. And the second important thing also is that these projects take a lot of time. This is not something which you can really do within a week or a month. You really have to plan. So for example, if an organization is growing and if you want some additional real estate space for your employees to operate from, you will need to plan it. You need to plan, you need to see where it will be. You will have to, go out, identify locations, first, negotiate a space where you really want to set the office, build that space up, and then the office space really goes live and the associates can really come in. So this is just one example which I'm giving, but then there are so many other factors which really go into this particular space. And it's pretty exciting.
Right. And you have done this real estate category for multiple countries, right? So which all regions or which all countries have you done this for?
Yeah. So what is exciting about this is that while I've been on the procurement side and done a lot of negotiations in the space, but I've also been on the other side, and I'm also running the operations. And when I'm on the other side of the table running the operations and managing the real estate portfolio, then I work with my procurement organization to really help me to drive value for the spend what we have. So that's the context, just some additional context. In terms of regions where I've worked, is mostly APAC, and I've done few projects in Europe, but most of my work has been in the APAC region as far as real estate is concerned from an operations standpoint. But from a procurement standpoint, I've negotiated contracts globally as well.
Right. And since you mentioned this, that you have done it for both procurement as well as the other side, operational and all. When you are dealing with procurement from the other side, let's say, how painful is procurement from that point of view?
Let me put it the other way. I have much better appreciation of the value what the procurement organization brings in on the table.
Right.
So the first thing when I'm kind of on the other side running operations and when I'm working with my team, and in general, the tendency of any function is to not involve procurement. That's your start point. Okay. That why to involve them, and it, and then whatever, all those old thoughts around it will delay the process, it will so on, and they don't know the category and so on and so forth. The first thing which I did with my team was to make them understand what value the procurement organization really brings in and why it is important for us to collaborate with them. Okay.
Right.
And bring them into the conversation. So it's all about the storytelling and the narrative and the value what you can really make everybody understand that why procurement is important. And to me, I think one of the key things is even more important for the procurement organization is to think from the business perspective as well. Okay.
Right.
So when a procurement organization is really working, they have to think like a business owner. They have to think like every time kind of showing the policy or things which cannot be done does not really help. So it's both ways. But for my case, it has been very easy for me to convince my teams to really let's start collaborating with procurement team upfront in the process.
Right.
For example, if I'm thinking about implementing a project or doing some new initiative, it's better to involve procurement from day one rather than involving them in the end of the process,
Right.
because there is a lot of market intelligence and awareness what the procurement organization also brings in. They also can bring in a lot of new inputs in strategizing in that outcome of that particular project. So it's extremely important, to work as one team, to understand each other better, and collaborate more.
I mean, I would like to go back to real estate procurement as well. But before I do that, this is pretty interesting that, we are talking about values that procurement gets. And as you said, that if you involve procurement at the start, then you get much better values than, if you do it in the later on stage. Now we have seen, this perception and all change over the years. You see that people involve procurement now better than what they used to do before, or?
There are two, three things. One is that even when you say a procurement organization, it is just not the strategic negotiation.
Right.
There are so many other functions within the procurement organization wherein the business will have to interact with. Say, for example, the entire supplier onboarding process, the risk management, okay, the strategic negotiation team, the contracting team, where the legal is also involved. Okay, so while you may be working with more closely with just one team within that organization, but once in a while you will have to interact with other teams as well. Okay.
Right.
So the perception is just not about how well the procurement organization supported me in the negotiation process, but then on the end-to-end experience. Okay, fine,
Right.
I've negotiated a deal, but now I want to implement it, right? And if the supplier is new, how was my experience in onboarding a particular supplier, right? How was my experience in getting the contract executed? How was my experience in executing my purchase order, cut out to the supplier? And so on and so forth. So it's both ways. Even the procurement organization needs to think that, look, it is just not the category management team, but it's also the other teams, and how are we kind of giving a consolidated support to our internal business organizations, and that's extremely important. As far as procurement involvement, I think that perception is changing. And then to me, it is more like you have to keep on working on it every day, because the fact is, there are changes within the system. People change and so on and so forth. So while you are building certain relationship with few of the team members across the board, but then how do you make it a permanent affair where procurement and the business really work as one team to go out to achieve the best kind of a deal for the particular transaction.
Right. I'll go back to the category one again. So I see that you have done a lot of global workplace services as well.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that comes up is that corporate real estate and global workspace are both similar but not same. Could you please expand on that as to how they're similar and not same?
Yeah. So a typical corporate real estate function has three key responsibilities what they have to deliver. One is the entire strategy around the footprint of the office space which you have, which means what is your current setup, what are your growth plans, are you also going to say consolidate, move multiple offices into one location, and so on and so forth. So there is entire strategy around the physical presence of the office space. That's number one. And in that, the major activity is to negotiate lease with landlords in case you are leasing space, as a corporation. So that's one area which the real estate team manages. The second then is that, okay, you've leased the space, but then you need to build that office space. You have to put the furniture in, the chairs in, the entire, infrastructure. So there is a team which is then responsible to do that. So they take the lease and then they start working on the project, and then they, execute. And they would take, depending upon how much space you are building, between 90 to 120 days, to fit that space out. And then they hand it over to the facilities management team, which is the global
Right.
workplace team, for them to then maintain and manage that office on an ongoing basis. So these are the three key pillars for any real estate organization. And there are a lot of other sub activities, which are really involved. But mostly the global workplace services team is responsible for the entire colleague experience piece when the office goes live. There are multiple services which gets involved. Say, for example, F&B, the food and beverages. How are you really maintaining all your cafeterias and so on and so forth? The upkeep of all the offices, any events which takes place in our offices, the entire engineering and the entire air conditioning and so on and so forth. The sustainability aspect, the BCP aspect. Do you have resiliency built into within your offices and so on and so forth. So there are so many other things which really then go in this space.
Right, and there is a lot of project management that is happening.
Yeah, the project management, if you really look at it, is happening across the board. Because it is so important. These days, speed is key. It is very important that if, say, for example, you are in a growth phase, and you're expanding and you have to start delivering for your clients, from start to end, you have to get that space ready, and how you are putting a complete tracking around all the activities which needs to be executed, and putting a complete framework around that is extremely important.
Right. And when we're talking about these two major categories that we talked about, real estate and global workspace services, do you want to share any success stories, or how you already told us one win where you have the team know about procurement, but are there any other success stories that you would like to share?
And I'll give you a few examples. Wherein you have to, say, for example, finish a new office space within a very, very expedited timelines. Okay. Which basically then means is that how well you are working with all the other support functions. So it's procurement, it is IT, security organization, physical security. So there are multiple teams which really work on setting up that particular office. And then how do you really go about, say, for example, shortlisting the partner who is going to be fitting out that entire space. And if you've not selected the right partner, clearly it won't help you in terms of really ensuring that you are completing the project on time. So how are you really going about shortlisting the partner? How are you negotiating? And how are you ensuring that the contingencies are built in, and you have plan Bs as well built into your entire project plan. It is also very important that how are you taking care of multiple business requirements which are there. You want a space to be used, say, for example, during the daytime as a cafeteria, but in the evening you want to conduct a town hall,
Right.
for your members. So multiple usage of the same space. How do you do that? And how have you collected all the information from the business to ensure that in the design all those factors are included, and then you're executing and delivering that project. So I've done such multiple projects where all the teams come together, and you execute them. Once in a while you do have BCP situations like heavy rains or flooding or whatever, and then the employees cannot really go back just because there is too much of traffic on the road and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of last moment planning in terms of how do you make sure that you've got all the support requirements in the office space available, so that associates can work on a longer hours and so on and so forth.
I'll take some comments here, mostly from Alex. So Alex says every dollar through procurement is nothing else for compliance. So that's one. And the second one is a question that is related to the topic that we were discussing. How has real estate changed since COVID and remote working? So COVID and remote working, how are the changes that you are seeing in real estate for that?
Yeah. So the biggest thing which has happened for a real estate organization post COVID is the variability. Okay.
Right.
And when I say variability, which means that you really don't know how many associates are going to be coming to the office next day.
Right.
Okay. Now, all your services are designed to support how many number of associates really are walking into the office to come and spend the time in the day to work. Okay. So how do you plan for it when you don't know? So you have to really work very closely in terms of building up data on what has been your trend, okay, and how many associates are coming on a daily basis. So for example, the industry trend is that you will have less occupancy on a Monday and a Friday.
Right.
Okay. And the occupancy is at the highest on Wednesday. Okay.
Right.
So how do you manage that, right? So for example, suddenly you've got more people in the office, and then you need the support, things like your cafeteria requirement, your consumables and all that also to support so many number of people coming into your office, right? So that's the biggest thing, which is impacting. Then how do you plan for your growth, right? So for example, you want office space for say 1,000 associates, but then do I need to create 1,000 seats or do I need to create 500 seats?
Right.
And that's where it is extremely important, and it is putting a lot of pressure on the real estate organization to manage the spend more effectively. And there is no one else but procurement who can really help them. Okay.
Right.
And also it is very important for the real estate organization to understand the business more. And that is even true for the procurement organization. You have to really spend more time with business, understand what the requirements are, what is changing, and so on and so forth. But mostly on the COVID topic and the remote working, I think the biggest issue is the variability in terms of how many associates are really coming to the office on a daily basis.
Now, moving on from the real estate part, you are also a coach, and how is coaching important for procurement? Let's start from that general view, and then we'll go into details.
Yeah, mostly we think that procurement is all about influencing others, right? But that's not the case. It's mostly about how are you influencing yourself, and how are you really controlling yourself, and how are you really reacting during the negotiation process. Okay. And that's where coaching as a concept, as a skill set, really plays a very, very, very big important role. Okay. So one of the reasons why I got kind of attracted towards getting into coaching was, there are a few skills which are extremely important. One is active listening. Okay.
Right.
In today's time, when there is so much of distraction, active listening is really not there. Okay. And as a negotiator, it's extremely important to not only have an active listening, but also to understand the overall context, what's really happening. And it's even more challenging now in a remote environment where you're having a remote negotiations. Not many negotiations are now happening face to face. So in coaching, active listening is one of the key things. The second thing is also to ask good questions. As a coach, you need to really ask very effective, open-ended questions to have more information, more insight. And I think that's again a very important skill which you need, to as an effective negotiator. You need to know what kind of questions you need to really ask. So these are the factors which I feel are something which I could leverage from my coaching learning experience into various aspects of my me as a negotiator.
Right. Now, I have a comment from Alex, and then I go into a little further on coaching. So Alex says active listening is so important. So he's backing up that point. Now, we'll also talk about negotiation in a while, but going further on the coaching part. Now, we have established the fact that procurement needs coaching, and we need coaching for good reasons. But most of the time we don't have budget for coaching, and we are not even the last guy to get the budget. We are after the last guy we get the budget. So how can procurement ask for better coaching and better training?
One, given I've worked with Hewitt Associates, so we were HR outsourcing and consulting firm. So HR was like core for us. Okay, so one of the things which I learned in that is that the learning framework is actually around 70-20-10. Okay, so 70% of your learning is happening on the job.
Right.
Yeah, 20% is via coaching or mentoring, and 10% is via classroom training. Okay, while mostly when we talk about learning, we only talk about the classroom training. Okay, and so basically we are only talking about the 10% of what you can really learn, but we don't really focus on the remaining 90%, which is on the job. What are you learning, and so on and so forth, and 20% around coaches and mentoring. As an individual, you have to reach out. You have to build your own network of mentors and coaches and leaders where you can reach out to them and talk to them. Today with so much of social media, with LinkedIn, you can do that. So you really don't need to just wait or depend upon what is happening back at workplace. If you are a lifelong learner, and if you want to learn something new, reach out to people in the larger ecosystem. Okay, talk to them, and I can tell you 99, most of the people are out there to help. If you put across your case in the right way, you can really go and seek for advice, seek for some tips and so on and so forth. So that's what I would really kind of share, that don't limit yourself with the external opportunities what you will get. Make your own opportunities. Go out, reach out to people, talk to them, and that's how you can really learn new things, get better, good mentors and coaches, and in that it's just not a region specific. It's a global opportunity what you can get, to go and interact with people.
I think very valid point, that 70-20-10 thing, and 90% of your learning comes from not classroom training in that sense, because when we started off, we never had any formal procurement training or coaching in that sense. We had our seniors to tell us what to do, and most of the important concepts, be it anything, came from those seniors. And for that, I'm pretty thankful to my seniors, at least, so that they taught us a lot of things. But when we are talking about, let's say, when we are talking about procurement, coaching procurement, or rather the senior coaching the new ones, what would be the areas that we focus? We talked about active listening and all, but are there any areas that you think as procurement professional and being a coach as well, where you would like to focus?
Yeah. So there is a very thin line differentiation between mentoring and coaching. Okay.
Right.
And I'll give you one very simple example. Okay. In a mentoring scenario, you reach out to someone who has either experienced or done something similar to what you are really currently doing. Okay, so you can really reach out to them and ask for some tips, and the mentor would
Right.
be willing to share. Okay, this is how I managed those situations, and this is how I dealt with that particular negotiation, and so on and so forth. But in a coaching conversation, it's a coach would not give you an answer straight away. Okay.
Okay.
In fact, a coach will work with you to try to understand what your real problem is. Okay. And then help you to get the kind of answers and solutions thereafter. Okay, so basically, what the difference is that a coach is not there to give you answers. The coach is there for um, be part of that particular journey and help you discover the solution. Okay,
Right.
so that's the difference between the two. But so it depends what you really need in a particular situation. um, but why is coaching important for anyone, irrespective whether you're in procurement or elsewhere, is because um, you need someone. You need whenever you're getting stuck, you really don't know what is where are you really getting stuck at, and what is the real driver behind it. And that's where a coach can really help you uncover that and then take the next step. Um, Mostly in a transactional kind of a situation, in a typical procurement kind of a setup, and when you are trying to grow up the ladder and so on and so forth, the mentoring is the best piece, because you really want to go and talk to people who have been in that particular situation. So, for example, if I am aspiring to become hypothetically a chief procurement officer, better to go and talk to a chief procurement officer and seek inputs and understand what was their journey, what did they do when they had those challenges, and so on and so forth. And then how do you internalize it and then come up with your own plan of action, and then take the next step. I'll share one very interesting concept which I had heard, is that mostly you would have heard that organizations have a CEO as a board. There are board of directors. Okay.
Right.
Where you go and on a quarterly basis kind of report out what's happening, what's not happening, and so on and so forth. So everybody, one of us should have our own board as well. Okay. A
Right.
set of mentors and coaches. Okay.
Right.
Who can help you when you get stuck. Okay. So it's also a kind of at a regular frequency touch point to say, okay, these are my set of my personal board where I can go and get some advice, some inputs if I'm getting stuck, and that's what we all should try to build as we move forward.
Right. And to add to that concept, I also read it somewhere that you are the CEO handling yourself, and you have to promote some people in your circle. That combination is up to you, how you do that. Now, I have two comments here from Alex. Alex says, well-coached team drive superior results. And then Alex also says, I have had 4 separate coaches during my career, all helping me different aspects of development. So Alex
Absolutely.
is also lucky. I have been lucky also that I've got great mentors and coaches. Both. I think we covered nice points in the coaching part. One of the things that you touched on when we were talking about coaching was negotiation. So let's start with your general view, or your negotiation tips, how you approach negotiation, and then we'll go a little deeper on that.
I'll be very, there are a lot of models, and there are a lot of
Right.
literature now which can really confuse you, or you can get overwhelmed in terms of how to really go about doing a negotiation. Okay. But I like to keep things very simple and very basic. One is, it is extremely important how are you preparing for a negotiation,
Right.
And we feel that we are prepared for a negotiation, but the fact is that when you really go and have your first conversation in a negotiation, that's when you realize that, oh no, you are not prepared at all. There are a lot of factors which you really did not think about
Right.
when you started the conversation. So extremely important that how much time are you spending on preparing? How much time are you spending to understand the whole context? How much time are you spending to really understand what is the real requirement? Why is this purchase important to the business? How are they going to be using it? It's very important for the procurement category team to really start thinking from the business perspective from day one, as soon as they receive a requirement, because it's not just about negotiating. Okay, my theory always is your job actually starts when you've negotiated the contract, because
Right.
if you are unable to execute it, okay, and if the execution has not happened or there were tons of challenges in the execution, it's not a successful negotiation.
Right.
While the procurement organization or the negotiator would not really bother about in a normal scenario of what really happened, because you're moving on to one negotiation to the other negotiation to the third negotiation, and you're not really taking too much of time to really understand, did you really meet the end objective of where you started from? So prepare a lot for a negotiation, try to get the entire context on the requirement, understand this and understand the other partner with whom you're negotiating. Try to get as much information, and with with AI coming in, you can really use the AI tools
Right.
to put different questions, different prompts to really build your entire case, in terms of how you can really strategize your negotiation. So there is a lot of help which you get, but then the point, if you're not utilizing it, if you're not spending time on doing it, you may feel you've done a deal, but the real test you'll come to know when it gets executed. The business has achieved the end objective, and in the end, you've been able to serve the customer. That's the whole objective, right? Be present during the negotiation. Be very clear in terms of what your negotiation team is, who is going to play what role. The moment you're doing meetings, come back and do after review. What happened in the meeting, what things are open, what things we did not cover up, so that you are well again preparing again for the next negotiation meeting, right? And really understand where your partner is coming from. If you're negotiating with a supplier, what are the things the supplier is looking for? What is it in it for them? So the way you are thinking from a business standpoint, you have to also think from a supplier standpoint. What's in it for them? What's their final story, right? And that's where you will uncover a lot of things, and you'll have to go back and discuss internally with other team members as well, and then come up with a final strategy, and negotiate. So basically, it's extremely exciting space to be in. I know, the whole purpose of all these conversations is also to create more awareness about procurement. That this is a great space to be in, because it is so dynamic. It is changing so much, and every day, with so much of change and so much of context, you are able to at the end of the day, really help the business, your internal teams, to drive more value for the organization.
And negotiation is a topic that has so much into it, right? Peel off one layer after the other, and it will still go on for a long time. But I think the good points that you touched there is the preparation one. So again, 60 to 70%, I think, of any negotiation should be about preparation. and then your actual negotiation is 20, and then follow up and all that. And the other point that you raised, very valid, is that monitoring of the contract, right? That management of the contract. That are you actually monitoring, or other things like that. But I want to combine negotiation and real estate. What has been your experience?
Yeah, it will surely help for you to really understand what the category really, say for example, and again, let's go back to a point that I want to lease out 100,000 square feet of office space, say in a city. Okay.
Right.
Now you've got 10 options, okay, available. So how do you go about kind of having top 3 options out of that 10 options? What are the criteria you will really put in? Okay. Proximity to where your associate base are living, proximity to the business hub, proximity to the airport, and so on and so forth. So you will kind of strategize around, okay, which are the top 3 of the 10 options which you have on the table. Okay.
Right.
Then you will do more analysis around the profiling of the landlords. Have they done more offices like this before? What is their reputation? Which all clienteles are occupying that particular space? What has been their maintenance record? How have they maintaining their campuses, and so on and so forth. So at each stage, there is much more information and insight what a procurement guy can really go and bring out. And then when you have the top 3 options, how are you really negotiating it? What are the key terms and conditions which you have to take care of? While sure, the rental is one piece, but then there are so many other parameters which have commercial impact, like say for example the maintenance charges, say for example parking fees, say for example weekend workings, and so on and so forth. So how are you doing that? How are you really trying to understand what's my overall cost, whether it is on a per square feet or a per seat basis, and then really looking at how does it compare to my budget which I have to spend, and then further go more deep. How can I negotiate for small additional things which can be added on free of cost. So for example, can I get a building signage for my logo on the building, so on and so forth. So there are so many things which really go in, and when you start doing this, and when you start trying to then also understand the micro market transactions which are happening in that particular space, all the businesses, whether it is real estate, IT, HR, and all, they are looking for help. Okay. They need that information. They want to look good internally for their business as well. And procurement organization can play a very big role in making all of these functions look better in front of the business leaders. And that's why it is very important for procurement to really collaborate well, understand, share these market insights, go out. I think this one thing which I tell my team very often, that you will not learn sitting in the office. You have to go out, go out, visit. When you go out and visit places, meet people, talk to them, that's when you will get more insight on what's really happening in the marketplace. Because most of the time, procurement organization, they feel that there is a lot which they have to do, and they really cannot go out, and so that's one thing which is something which one should really go out, look and touch and feel, what you're really doing. It will help you to become a better negotiator.
Right. Before we move on to the other topics, is there anything else that you would like to cover for negotiation? Any matrix or any tips that can help, or any success stories as well? Anything that comes to your mind?
Try to understand what your rules of the games are.
Right.
What's your kind of boundary? What are your constraints? What flexibilities do you have? What does your policy really say? Spend more proactive time with business. Don't wait for a requirement to come in. I encourage my team members to go and attend your business meetings, because that's when you're going to be learning and listening to what's really coming up next. So all of these factors are very important, and they are very, very, very helpful when you are trying to strategize around what's your, so for example, what's your pipeline for the year, for next year. And if you are not aware of what your business is really doing, you will not be able to work on those aspects. And more from a negotiation perspective, work on yourself is what I would strongly say, because we don't realize how any comment or any counter offer or anything in the conversation impacts us. And if you're not really controlling yourself, you will not be able to really take the right next step process. Do the basics, is what again I would say. Have you built in your alternatives, right? Do you know your zone in which you're really negotiating? What's in it for the partner? It's not about just squeezing them out. It's not going to help you. So what is it in for them? And are you really working as a team, even if it is negotiating between two parties, but are you working as a team? Because end of the day, even the supplier or the partner with whom you are negotiating, they know how is it important from what the organization is really trying to do, and how are you really bringing them along in the journey. Now you can only do that when you are not fighting it out, but collaborating and working together in the negotiation process.
Right, yes. So Bhatna, Zopa, a lot of good concepts there. Yeah. Thank you. We'll move on from negotiation. You touched on Six Sigma and Lean and process improvement when you're doing the introduction. Could you please tell us about how Lean, Six Sigma, and process improvement can help procurement?
So one is to really, and first is to really understand that what is the customer experience. When a customer is coming to procurement to seek help on a negotiation, end of the day, after that entire process, how was their experience, right? Are you really trying to keep your process simple, or is it too complicated? And then there are a lot of activities which are not really adding any value in the entire process. So are you eliminating those steps from the process? So as a procurement organization, we need to keep on looking at all our steps and our touch points with our businesses, and really see whether those steps are really adding value or they are not adding any value. And if the steps are not adding any value in the end objective, we have to start eliminating them. And that is basically what a lean principle would be, that you are really eliminating steps which are not really required. Over a period of time, you build your process so complex just to foolproof from all the risk, and at times those are not required. And again, it is just not the negotiation process, but there are so many other processes where the customer is really interacting. Supplier setup. How much time is it really taking? Is it easy for a supplier to share information, for whatever is required from a supplier setup process, and then so on and so forth. So these, it's important to keep on doing those evaluation in terms of looking at, are these steps really required in the entire process? More from a Six Sigma is again using the basic frameworks. So for example, when you're starting working on a project, have a project charter.
Right.
And when you're saying a project charter, it is what's the input requirement? Have you got all the inputs? What are the outcome you're trying to drive? What's the project team? It's just not procurement and business, but you need to involve finance, you need to involve legal, maybe you need to involve corporate security. So do you have that team in place? What's the project timeline? Within how much time are you going to be really closing out this particular negotiation? And then what are the risks? Have you identified some risk? And have you mitigated those risks? As you really move forward. And then it's also important, as I was giving example on kind of an after action review of, really look at what did not work well, and do some, kind of a very simple 5 why kind of an exercise to really see what was the real root cause. Why did we
Right.
not, you know, get the outcome what we were looking for, or why did it took, maybe you did not do a good job in collecting all the information. So till the time you don't kind of keep on going back and looking at what the real root cause is and improve the process, that's the continuous improvement which one can really use in this entire process. So there is a lot of opportunity for us to keep on using these simple tools, and keep on improving as a procurement organization.
Right. I think, again, this is also a very vast topic. We can have a podcast entirely on this
Yep.
topic, and we might not finish all the
Completely.
points. But I just wanted to touch on it as to the audience to get some idea about it. Now, moving on with social media and LinkedIn, what are your views on how that has helped you? Or
I'm on this podcast because of LinkedIn, right? So I can't say more than that. I would encourage everybody to have your profile on LinkedIn. But what is also important is when you're using, and I'll just keep my points on LinkedIn, is to make sure that you are kind of updating your content, your profile, and things like that. It's one thing to have a profile on LinkedIn, but then to really effectively network, which is extremely important as a negotiator. um, you know you have to keep your profile updated. You have to also, from time to time, keep on posting your experiences, what you've learned, something about the topic of your interest. Drive some engagement around it,
right,
because that's how you will build your brand over a period of time, in terms of someone who is in a particular space. This is great way to really interact with anyone across the world. You could reach out to so many expert negotiators in different space, and really talk to them, and really get some help. So I'm a full on advocate on using LinkedIn as one of the tools to really grow your network, and it can extremely help you in your professional career.
right. And I'll add a comment from Alex here. Alex says also update your profile on the Alchemy Network. So Alex
Yeah.
is promoting Alchemy Network, obviously. So that's another addition. A very interesting point where you said about branding yourself, and you being a coach and mentor. How do you see this helps somebody in their career?
One has to be think more on how you can help others. You know, and one way to do that is by, so for example, on LinkedIn, I keep on getting so many messages and so on and so forth. Take some time to connect, set up a call, talk to them, and see how you can help. It's not always about what's in it for me. It's always about
Right,
how much can you give, and how can you become a small enabler for someone's success. you know
right,
uh, and I can tell you that the sense of happiness and the sense of achievement what you will get is far far bigger when you're helping others to grow. um,
right.
so keep doing that. I think that's what I would say is extremely important.
I have another comment from Alex. He says, if you haven't sat down and thought about your brand, then how can you expect others to know about you? Pretty much done with my questions. If anyone has any question, please put them on chat. We're going to close it soon. Uh, Now, before we close, I just wanted to touch on one more important topic. Any fresher or anybody who is just starting their career and listening to this podcast, what would you say about procurement as a career
Yeah,
to
I
them?
think it's very interesting that if you really ask this question to most of the procurement professionals, that how did you come into procurement, right? It would be by accident. It was not by design. They did not
Hmm.
join procurement as a profession. And that was true for me as well, by the way. I started as a more into the real estate space, but then I moved into contracting, and then I moved into procurement, and that's how I moved into this. But if for anyone who wants to aspires to get into procurement, it's the best thing what you can do. And there are 2-3 reasons. Okay, one is that you are able to see results of what work you've done, and that brings you a lot of satisfaction in the work what you do. Number one. Number two, the learning, the journey is a very long journey, and you can really you can keep on learning, and you can do different types of projects, and the requirements will change, the business context will change, the global context will change. So there are so much variability, which comes in, which then helps you to keep on adapting and learning, and really see things, how things are changing. So that's second. The third is, which is extremely important, which is part of your podcast as well, is the human connection. You get to meet so many people. You're building relationships, and that can happen in a procurement organization. You get to meet different associates within the organization. You get to meet so many people from an external standpoint, and that's what really is even more exciting. So I would give a big thumbs up, on someone to really take a procurement as a profession, and I can assure that you will never have a boring day.
Right. I think yes, and the human connect, the will to help others. I think these are great reminders. I mean, I wouldn't say these are first time learning or something for anyone, but I think these are great reminders for anyone who is listening to this, for me as well. I don't have any questions here, but I think we touched upon very nice topics. We started with real estate, then categories, and then we talked a lot about coaching, and then how negotiation happens for procurement, and the broader aspects of branding yourself, the will to do good, and the human connect. I think a lot of good things there. Thank you so much. So Chandresh, before we end, is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I think thank you so much for doing what you're doing, Supratim, and this is a great platform, for someone to be in touch with what's really, you again get to hear different people, and you're interviewing so many great, profiles. So thank you so much for what you're doing, taking your time and doing this. It looks simple from outside, but there is a lot of work what you are doing before this is getting recorded. So thank you so much, and this really means a lot. And thank you to the network as well. Yeah, and keep it going. I'm shouting, and I'm behind you for this to always be a success. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Without the support and encouragement, I don't know how long or how far I can go. But it has been a learning for me. I think the biggest learner is me. And Alex is saying thanks both. So thanks. I think a lot of good points again. Thank you, Chandresh, again for doing this. This would be put on YouTube and the Alchemy Network. And again, thank you all for joining. Have a nice day then. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel.